Hey, it's Acoustic Stevo, the human patriot. Government is slavery. Alright, today I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a video on exactly how government is slavery. And just give me a second here. I'm using Omelet Arcade. If any of you are wanting some kind of cool way to live stream and make videos with your phone's screen, and you can even put your picture on there if you want. On this one I'm not going to, but I made this little folder called Slideshow, and that's what I'm going to run in the background while I drive. So alright, let me get on my way and we'll get this video going. Alright, so I'm an anarchist, and I think a lot of people don't really understand anarchy. I know I certainly did not, and it's only a recent thing that I've completely become an anarchist, and I want to explain what that means. Because a lot of people think it means destruction and lawlessness, and just outright throwing everything that society deems good to the wind in favor of an individual's right to just be destructive if they so choose. And that's not at all the definition of anarchy. It's kind of been co-opted and smeared, and that's kind of like become the idea of what anarchy is, rather than the actual reality of it. In actual reality, anarchy is simple. It's no archons, basically. No archetypes. No authority, basically. No government. And thus, in the anarchist truther community out there, I'm not really a part of it, but I'm starting to meet some people. There's the saying, government is slavery. And it absolutely is. And that's what this video is going to be about. So, I am not just one of those people who constructs their reality from the seen. I also construct my reality from the unseen. Mainly because I feel that I've had interaction with the unseen. And because of that interaction, after experiencing it, it's not so easy for me to discount it. That being said, I've completely rid myself of having to interact with the unseen through a religion. Now, not doing religion, I still have spiritual things, spiritual esoteric knowledge that I adhere to and believe, mainly because I've seen its practical implementation in my life and the lives of those around me and in history, and just looking at the grand scheme of everything that's given to us as what's happened on Earth as being apparent. And for me, astrology is one of those things, and this video is not going to be about astrology, but I kind of want to lay this out there because it kind of will help you understand where I'm kind of going with my perspective in why I believe that we are ripe for anarchy, for the actual humanity's evolution beyond government, for our understanding that it's not a need, that it's not a necessary evil, as you've seen in this slideshow professed by Thomas Paine, but it's an evil. Not a necessary evil, an evil. And for me to make that declaration, I'm going to have to kind of paint a broader picture, and hopefully you'll be able to understand some of the references that I'm going to use as being spiritual references. And I understand I probably lost a lot of people with that, because a lot of times people can get into the whole atheism paradigm and think that has something to do with anarchy, when it really doesn't. It's all right, in my opinion, to be atheist, but for me that's just another religion, because what you're doing is you're declaring in your belief system, as every religion is just a belief system, but you're declaring in your belief system that God does not exist. It's not that you're unsure of if God and the unseen exists, but that it absolutely does not. And I don't have a problem with people doing that. It's not like the worst thing to happen on earth, these atheists aren't causing major problems anywhere. But what I'm getting at is, this has become such a religion in our society that a lot of people have just glommed onto it, and they've brainwashed themselves, and yeah, I do believe it's brainwashing. They brainwashed themselves into believing that the unseen world does not exist. Only the seen world, the actual tangible 3D reality that we all live in, is what exists. And the reason why I say that has to be a fundamental atheist belief, because if the unseen exists, and when I say unseen, I don't mean things that we can't see with the naked eye, because we all know those things exist. I mean the spiritual realm, things outside of our conventional scientific understanding. And possibly the concept of God is a mistaken concept to begin with, and perhaps the atheists are correct in a way. But right now, as for what we know, as a species, we can't really discount the possibility of God. And mathematically, if you really look at everything, it kind of seems like there is a God. So what happens is, people grow up in their societies, and they're given a choice of what God can be. Their idea of what God is doesn't come usually from within themselves. It comes from some outside source. And that's dangerous, because really what it is they have been propagandized by either a religion or just their society, whatever it is. They've been propagandized with the belief system in how they should view the unseen. And this can be a problem. So the reason why I believe in astrology, and when I say belief, that means it's changeable. I mean, I could come across information that makes me disregard astrology in the blink of an eye, if that information ever presents. But instead, I've found by experimentation, just by observation, that a lot of the esoteric wisdom held in astrology really does have real-world application, and it really does reflect itself in the beings that I'm surrounded by. Where a person is born in their planet placement really does seem to manifest in their character, and for me that seems like it's a mathematical impossibility unless astrology has some basis in reality. And that's something you can explore on your own and see if you come to the same conclusions, or you could just disregard it, and either way is fine, because you don't really have to understand astrology to understand what I'm going to say. I am going to use an astrological system, though, in kind of getting to where I'm going with this. And I just think it's kind of an easy way to use mythology to kind of understand why we could be evolving beyond government. And I really hope we are. And I think one of the first things to look at would be the ages. You know, in astrology, there's a wobble. The Earth wobbles, and that's why the birth of astrology, all the signs out in the heavens lined up to the astrological Western astrological wheel we have today, starting in Aries and ending in Pisces. So that meant at the spring equinox, the beginning of Aries began, and the year would go. You know, the death season was over, and the life season is begun. And over time, the wobble of the Earth has aligned us differently. So now, see, there's a debate whether or not Western astrology is even applicable because of this wobble and what's happened in the heavens. Because now, the seasons that we have don't line up astrologically, the stars behind them, as they did when astrological systems first started becoming documented in human history. Back then, it lined up, but this wobble now, we're like one sign off. So there are a lot of people that believe it. Actually, in Hindu astrology, it's called the Vedic system. They go by this alignment of the stars rather than the alignment of the seasons and the sun, which is what I use as a Western astrology approach to astrology. They actually look at the heavens and say, where are the stars right now? And that's Vedic astrology. And what happens is that wobble creates ages. All right, this is where we get the understanding of our ages. And I'm not going to go too deep into this, except to say, you know, it's common knowledge that a lot of people out there in society are promoting the fact that we are leaving the Piscean age and we're going into the Aquarian age. And that has to do with a cosmic alignment with the shift of our entire produced by that wobble. So not only does the wobble produce the planets themselves aligning in different signs, but it also produces a more profound effect where it realigns us to the cosmos in general. And it's kind of one of those things where people are kind of unsure of where it begins and where it ends for the ages. But it's pretty apparent that we are in the Aquarian age. And, you know, I believe that my generation was born at the cusp, the pinnacle of the Piscean age, maybe even the beginning of the Aquarian age, but definitely we are in the Aquarian age, the dawn of it right now. We're at the dawn of the Aquarian age. And what that means is that we're going to have a lot of new ideas that are going to transform humanity. The actual symbol of Aquarius is the water bearer, where the water bearer is pouring the waters of life into humanity for them to be nourished. And, you know, it has its own dangers and everything, you know. It's ruled by Saturn. Saturn is a planet of restriction and limitations. But it's also ruled by Uranus. And Uranus is a planet of rebellion and sudden transformation that comes and quickly manifests and sometimes disappears and leaves a whole new thing in its wake. And we kind of have seen that just in society in general. And I think the precursors for the Aquarian Age have been happening for quite a long time. And I think one of the biggest ones is the Magna Carta, where we, our colonizing of Western civilization that is now what we have and what we're living in on Earth started with the British Empire. And the British Empire produced the Magna Carta, and it was kind of the getting away from the king as, the Godhead on Earth, the God mouthpiece that governed. And it's kind of been given to the people, and it manifested even more in our whole history in America, and where we are now is we've entrenched ourselves in government. So we're living in government right now, in the Aquarian Age. And I believe that it's very possible for us to seize the opportunity of understanding, because of the energies that are coming to us, the enlightenment that's coming to us, that we no longer need government. And I know that's a radical idea, but I don't think it's off basis. And I think it's it's like a flower blooming. It's like the Magna Carta was when the flower had just kind of started to peek open. And now, the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, was written, and that was just kind of a physical manifestation of something that we have and can never be taken away from us. And it's quite possible that it could have even been done a disservice by being written down. But things happen for a reason, and they happen in stages. So what happened when the American Revolution was coming about was that there were people looking at philosophy. John Locke was a philosopher a lot of people were looking at. And Thomas Paine started to write. And his little pamphlet he made, Common Sense, just went everywhere. It was just, the printing press is also, and now we have computers. It's kind of like how fast things can manifest. We don't even know what we're going to see in 10 years on this earth. It's going to be crazy. Technology is leaping and bounding and will continue to do so at an exponential rate, and no telling what's going to happen with that. But we need to understand that not only is technology going through this exponential thing where we go from Ford's assembly line to what we have now, with these huge infrastructure freeways that transport our goods from here to there. We no longer have steamboats doing it or the rails doing it. Now the rails are an afterthought. We still use them. And, we're going to go beyond what we even have now. We probably haven't even imagined the technology that's going to transport our goods and services here very soon in the future. Like, a lot of people believe it's going to be automated semi-trucks. And maybe there will be a hiccup moment of that, but I believe it's going to be a lot different than even that. And what I'm getting at is that this energy is unleashing itself. And we can tap into it and understand it and use it to evolve. And one of the things we need to evolve beyond is government. Because government is slavery. And in this little slideshow I put together, Spooner, I don't really know a whole lot about him, but I've been kind of being introduced to him a little bit here and there by other people that are way farther into the whole anarchy thing than I am. I'm an infant. I only recently started declaring myself an anarchist, but I'm going to get into that and what that even means. Once you do declare yourself an anarchist, what it really truly means. And I might be young in it and an infant in it, but I've really been searching for it my entire life. And I found it. Seek and ye shall find. Well, I have found. And I'm going to share what I found and why I believe it to be true. So, what I'm getting at is, Thomas Paine, in this pamphlet of his, and a lot of the founding fathers read him and highly revered him. And I would say his philosophy espoused in Common Sense was a major part of why our government was founded the way it was, where it was intended to be small and unobtrusive. It's not that today. It's not at all, and that's why I have the Spooner quote in there in my little slideshow. And I'll just let it speak for itself, because I don't really need to read it out loud. And I only have 4 slides in this show, so I think you can just read them for yourselves and let them kind of sink in and really color what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what we have today is definitely slavery. It's probably more slavery than anything that's ever existed. But at the same time, we have a way out, because we have access to the truth in such a way that we've never had. And that is really been given to us by the technology. It's all kind of falling into place, so to speak. And it's falling into place in such a way that it's possible that if we can continue with the technology and to overcome the hurdles of censorship, the human mind can start to understand what it really is and what's really possible in the human spirit and the human being, because that's really what it all comes down to. Us understanding what we are and what we're capable of. And once we understand that, now I believe children understand that, and they are just reprogrammed. Like, I really do believe, now there is the ego, which is a part of the human experience, but it's not the end-all be-all, and the ego is really what's used by the programmers to program the subconscious mind in such a way that by the time you're in high school, you are given a choice to accept the program and begin to make your way in it, or to revolt against it. And usually if you revolt against it, you turn in on yourself and you self-destruct, because the program itself is very powerful, and it's deeply embedded in the subconscious mind of those young people who have grown up underneath the society that's implementing the programming, all right? And the basic structure of the programming is, first off, government is necessary. Even one of our greatest writers and philosophers, Thomas Paine, said government is but a necessary evil at its best. But I beg to differ. I do not believe government is necessary. And I think it's time that we start laying claim to that and writing a new set of documents that fully unravel and fully explain this, and that we spend the time really teaching this so that other people can understand why government is unnecessary. Because as soon as you understand why government is unnecessary and what is really going on, you're given a choice. You can choose to live in a lie and an illusion, a deeply embedded subconscious illusion that totally wastes your life and your potential, or you can choose to understand that government is fully illegitimate and the individual has the right to live as a free being, and everything that's implemented by government against a free being is pure evil and is the epitome of slavery. And I'm going to make a case for exactly how and why it's slavery. I only have about another half hour to 45 minutes to do so, so I'm trying to make this video kind of roll out in a way where I get everything out that I have to say in one video in this amount of time. And that's quite a feat in itself, but for me to do that, I need to kind of paint a picture at the beginning, and then I'll get into the nitty-gritty. And I'm kind of one of those people who kind of sojourns along the way and makes a lot of segues and comes back to points in a very roundabout way. And I'm really working on refining that style and making it more succinct and less obtrusive to those that are actually listening to what I have to say so that it doesn't become so tedious. But I'm not there yet. So if you could bear with me, I'd really appreciate it. Because what I'm saying is really important. It really is. Thomas Paine was just another step. You know, just like the Magna Carta and just like the Bill of Rights. We really don't even need a Bill of Rights because, you know, as Thomas Jefferson said in the Declaration of Independence, we all have unalienable rights. And it's really understanding what those unalienable rights are that will allow us to evolve and to say no more to government and to find alternatives and to fully illustrate those alternatives so that we can start to shift the paradigm and move into those alternatives. Now that's a major task. That's not a one-person task. Just like the Declaration of Independence wasn't a one-person task. A lot of people think it was Thomas Jefferson. But yeah, he penned it, but then there was a lot of editorializing done by Adams and the other guy is escaping me, and they kind of reined Jefferson in a bit, and what I'm getting at is we all have to work together for this evolution. It's not for one being, it's for everyone, and we all have to understand it in order to actually achieve it. And in understanding it, we're not going to all see the whole picture. We're all going to see pieces. But we each have to put out our pieces so that we can find the right pieces and put them together. Not everybody's going to have the right piece either. Some people may put things out that we go, okay, this piece is from another puzzle, let's put it to the side. But we really need to solve the puzzle, and what the puzzle is how can we exist in anarchy? How can we say no to government and make it functional and live it and be our full potential of what humanity could be? And there's a lot to that. I think the first thing is just understanding that government is slavery. So that's what I'm going to move into right now. I'm going to explain to you why you are indeed a slave and you've been programmed. If you do not at this point believe that government is slavery and you think that it's necessary, you are a slave. Hopefully I can convince you of that, because the first step is understanding what's going on to you, what's being done to you. After you understand what's being done to you, you can move out of it and realign yourself to something different. But until you understand that, you're going to have problems. And the problems will continue even after you understand it. Hell, they may even increase, and you may have a lot more problems and a new set of problems. But those problems are actually the solution, because you wouldn't even be working at those problems that you're probably not to, unless you have found out that government's slavery, unless you realize that government is slavery. So I'm going to attempt to get you to understand why government is slavery, and then maybe suggest some baby step solutions for those who may hear what I'm saying and understand what I'm saying and decide that they want to move out of the paradigm of the illusion. So here we go. It's not hard to explain. It's really easy to see, and it's really simple to break down. The first is taxes. All right? Taxes. Taxes are the way that the government is allowed to keep you a slave, because they implement their tyrannical authority that's illegitimate over you by actually having some sort of battery juice. And the battery juice is our taxes. And our taxes come straight from our labor, which is one of the craziest things to think about. I mean, it comes straight, it's the income tax. What is an income but your generated time that you manifest out into the 3D reality to get some kind of succor from that 3D reality to sustain yourself. Well, right from the get-go, the government dips its finger in there and takes out whatever it deems, whatever it's programmed people to believe is the right amount to take. All right? Any amount is the wrong amount to take, but government has programmed people to believe that we have all these things that can't be maintained without their aid. And in doing so, they've used fear and subconscious programming to instill in everyone, the general population in general, this pervading belief that all this infrastructure, for one, it goes beyond infrastructure, could not be maintained without their aid, without their help. And in doing so, in basically playing the Wizard of Oz, where they shout it out at us constantly, and everybody inside the Emerald City believes that the Oz is real, when really, in fact, it's just some construct. It's just some construct. And the only purpose of that construct is to keep us from realizing our real power. And we have a lot more real power than we even know. And we could very easily scientifically start to even prove these real powers if everything weren't kept under lock and chain by government. Because government is slavery, and they want to keep their slaves. They don't want to free their slaves. So this is going to be a hard thing for us to understand, realize, circumvent, and get out of. And I really don't even know all the answers for how that could happen. But I have some ideas, and that's really all they are at this point, is ideas. And that's what we need people to do, to understand that government is slavery and start putting forth ideas. And the ideas that are put forth need to be ideas that in no way legitimizes government's role in the individual's life. So we have to start to understand ways that our infrastructure could possibly exist without government. And that is a task in itself, because government has programmed us to believe that it's an impossible task. But I believe there are geniuses put on this earth, brilliant minds, and not just brilliant minds, but highly intelligent non-geniuses that can begin to work at these ideas of how we could do this without government. And it's possible. I know it is. And so that's what I want to start working at. That's what I'm going to be putting forth on this channel. And, I'm going to continue with some more examples of exactly how government is slavery. Okay, now, first off, you do not have the power to say, this is an evil thing that my government is using my money for, and I want to stop giving my money to the government. Because the government's kind of like a charity. Except for a charity, you can choose not to give your money to the charity. You can walk away from it. Where the government, there's no opt-out. So it doesn't matter how great we think this checks and balance system is, because it's not working, and it allows the military-industrial complex, which is a whole new thing that's come upon this earth, to go out and commit atrocities in my name. And I have no power to say no. This is... So it makes me culpable in a way, karmically culpable. Because until I say, this is so evil that I'm going to walk away from it and figure a way out to walk away from it, I'm culpable. So right now I'm living in this culpability. I understand that government's slavery, and maybe I really haven't figured a way out of that slavery yet. I haven't found the Underground Railroad entirely, but it's on my mind now as a slave. It's like, okay, now how can we make this happen? How can we escape this slavery? And that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm working at. And I want to help other people that are going through these same struggles that I'm going through, or even a different set of struggles, whatever it may be, we need to work together to figure this out. We need to support each other in a lot of different ways. And we have the technology to do so until it becomes such a threat that they make a move to take it away. But I don't think they'll do that, because that will cause the whole thing to tip over, and this whole dynamic of evolution will happen a lot faster, and they want to slow it down. See, that's what government really is. It's a way to slow down the inevitable, because we inevitably will transcend and evolve beyond government, because we don't need it. We don't need it. All we have to do is live according to what's right and wrong. If you live according to what's right and wrong, you don't need government to begin with, but you don't need to really worry about any of the evils that come from not living in right and wrong. So really the answer is people understanding what right and wrong is, teaching their children what right and wrong is, our science aligning to explain how right and wrong really does manifest into this world, so that everybody understands it not just emotionally, but intellectually and scientifically. And that can be done, and it will be done. But in the meantime, we all have a small little part to play, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So, right now, my money's being taken. Okay, now that's one example. The second example is even if I decide not to work anymore, not to work to where my money is given to the government for whatever it chooses to implement. That means that I either have to be independently wealthy and have enough money to exist upon without having an income. And even then, if I own property, I'm going to have property taxes. Even then, if I buy goods, I'm going to pay sales taxes. So it's really, really hard to escape. Beyond going out into the mountains and hiding, you really can't escape it. And I've entertained that thought when I was younger, because I may not have understood what anarchy was until I was 40, but I sure the hell understood what an individual, a free spirit is. And I really did understand that this whole thing that was constructed around me was not conductive to that. Now, that was kind of an immature response to the reality, which is just to run and hide, but I did entertain it. It's kind of like Walden, that book that Thoreau wrote, when he kind of took himself out of society for a moment and went and came up with, some philosophies and some thoughts and some poetry and some writing. And, I entertained something similar, and people have done it, and people still do it. They try to find their way to say, no, I don't want to do this. And that's really what we need to work on. And I think cryptocurrency could be a part of that. That's one of the major reasons why I'm even involved in cryptocurrency, because right now cryptocurrency, beyond if you want to use it for your succor, to buy food and goods or whatever, you can do that, but you have to still go through a government outlet for the most part, unless you use it peer-to-peer. But its use case for peer-to-peer is not really being used to the extent it could be until we decide to live outside government. For instance, a farmer has all the produce that I want. That farmer has a Bitcoin wallet. I choose to go purchase some produce from that farmer. The farmer gives me the produce. The Bitcoin is transacted, and I have my produce. He has his Bitcoin, and we can both move on our merry way. Well, the government wants to come in and say, okay, where's the sales tax from that sale? And at this point, if they catch you doing something like that, they possibly could do some kind of assault against your livelihood and try to put you in a position where you're threatened because you choose to interact that way. I really don't know. It's really kind of ambivalent at this point. The government's kind of still making its mind up, at least the United States government, on how it wants to interact with this. I mean, it was saying that it's an asset, right? So I guess that'd be kind of like trading. Like, I'm still allowed to go, okay, I will trade my truck for your car and just make a swap and swap bills of sale, and there's not really a sale going on there, so the government can't really get in and get its its little thing out of it. The barter system, it really goes down to a new way to barter outside of the government, and that's why one of the major reasons why I like cryptocurrency. And some of these cryptocurrencies make it untraceable. They're called privacy coins. So you could be doing all sorts of interactions with them on a peer-to-peer basis without the government even be able to see what's going on. That technology exists. Now those things are highly, the privacy coins, they're high. The government hasn't even started trying to figure those out because it's got its hands full enough with Bitcoin, all right, and all the other cryptocurrencies, and it's exploded. The potential for this technology is crazy, all right? These things are happening. What I'm telling you, with the idea of anarchy, it's going to manifest because there's two options. There is the beast agenda, the Revelation 666 agenda that the people that hold power are trying to manifest. And they really want people to believe the Bible. That's really important to them, because you'd think that if people believed the Bible, that they would go, oh, we're going to push back from the 666 agenda. But it's really covert in what it's really doing, all right? Because it's using the subconscious mind to program you. Because what it does is it programs a prophecy inevitability factor into the whole thing, right? But that's not the reality of the situation. That is just a program that people are running. So they think that they can slowly do this, and then they can do it, and then people are going to go, okay, and a lot of people will jump right into it for whatever reason their programming allows them or makes them choose to do that. And then all the Christians, that they might fight against it because, they're not going to want to take the mark of the beast, or whatever that turns out to be. And it's really simple to understand what it's going to be. It's going to be a way for the government to fully watch every little thing you do. And they already do. They already have our devices. Google basically is I believe set up to spy on us, and that's why it's allowed to be a monopoly. Because right now, if they didn't have that monopoly of Google and allow it to exist, then they wouldn't be able to really surveil us at the extent they really need to understand where everybody is in this process. Because I'm not the only one out there that's going through this, what I'd call an extreme awakening, a really turbulent, fast one, that is allowing me to grasp everything and to move into it. There's a ton of us out there, all right? And not only that, we all know that it's necessary to not just awake ourselves, but to start waking up everyone else around us. We know it's necessary. And we're all really devoting ourselves to doing that. And that is the problem. That is the Beast Agenda's problem. That's one of their problems. The other is the Second Amendment. Because America itself is a problem. Americans aren't going to give up their guns. And unless the Americans give up their guns, they're not going to be able to implement the Beast Agenda, no matter how much technology they have and how ready they are to do it. They're not going to be able to do it until they can forcibly do it, because we've unarmed ourselves. Because we don't have the capability of fighting back when it comes time for them to flip the switch. And that's really what they want to do, is just flip the switch. And a bigger part of that is getting us to accept socialism. So they want to make government programs so big and so fake, because that's what they'll be built upon, as a fake currency set up by the Federal Reserve. That's the, so first they implemented the income tax, which really kind of destroys the individual when it goes in and it takes from their sucker to build government things that we don't need at a mass level and a mass scale, where the government becomes this behemoth that it was never meant to be when the documents that were written to begin with were first written. So we've got some major problems. And there isn't, a lot of people think going back to bare bones, what the Constitution says, actually adhering to our Bill of Rights, which we don't do, is the solution. And the reason why I put that Spooner quote in there is to say, hey, look, we're almost beyond that. They've built up this behemoth of government and become such masters at psychologically performing mass CIA ops on all of us and getting us to accept certain things, that there's no turning back, and the beast agenda is like an inevitability. And it's not though, and they don't want us to see this. And now this is going to be crazy, but there's an idea that I have, and it's that we have really powerful psychic abilities that we don't understand because they don't want us to understand them. But we could scientifically study them at any point and understand them. And some people have greater ones than others, and some people have different ones than others. But there's a gamut of these things that we can do that we don't even know we can do, all right? And they don't want us to understand that. And, that's a big part of it, because they know as soon as we understand that, they're toast. And I've already started using my psychic abilities. I'm already going to put it out there. One of the things that I want other people to do is join me in it, because the more people that are doing what I'm going to explain here in a moment, the better. And it may sound like hooey, like a bunch of spiritual hooey, and maybe it is, but I don't even think it requires that much energy to be put into it for us to find out if it's hooey. And here it is. I think that Stephen King is a prophet, is a modern prophet, and I believe that his Dark Tower series is kind of the pinnacle of his prophecy. And I believe that the breakers exist, that the whole, not, it's an allegory prophecy, so it's not like 3D reality type prophecy. It's an allegory, so you have to understand the allegory. But these breakers exist, and what it is people that can use their psychic abilities to break apart the mechanisms of the psychological warfare, the psychological constructs that have been implemented on society in our mass consciousness. And by visualizing this mass as the beast, I look at it as the beast, as breaking the beast, breaking the 666 agenda. So when I put my psychic power into breaking, all I do is visualize dissolving the agenda out of the mass conscious of humanity, and also the implementation of not my agenda, but just people's awareness that they can be so much more than what they are. So just an awakening energy that will manifest itself into a anarchic way of being, where people and individuals can wake up and do the right thing and live their highest potentials and find out who they really are. So all you have to do to participate in what I'm talking about, and if you've made it this far, I'm talking to a select group of people to begin with, because hardly anybody's going to make it this far, if anybody. But if you've made it this far, I started it with the whole anarchy thing. I gave you 2 pretty concrete examples. I could give you more, but I'm nearing the end of where I'm going, and I kind of want to make this point before I end, because I don't need a ton of examples for you to understand you're a slave at this point. Like, you should pretty much understand it from what I said. And then you could probably on your own come up with 20 more examples, as I could, but I'm not going to do. I'll leave that up to you. But what I'm saying is, to be a breaker, all you have to do is visualize. And visualize along with me, because the more people visualizing, the more powerful the manifestation of the breaking will be. So visualize dissolving the beast agenda. And for me, I've made that into something I can visualize, because you want it to be like a symbol. So my symbol, I have a few of them. Like, I work at it from different angles and things. But one of them is just simple, 666. So I imagine destroying that number, 666. And I've been doing it for years unknowingly. My first thing that I've done is I've taken it back. I've taken back the number 666. And now my number is 667, right? So basically what you're saying is, I'm going to go beyond 666. What's beyond 666? 667. So it's real simple. It could be anything, but that's just my idea of how I can. That's a first little break to the whole thing, right? Is taking the power back from the number itself, taking the fear out of the number and using the number. So like, I used to have screen names and such, email accounts and such, that I would put 667 at the end of as my moniker of whatever it was. And that in itself seeds out that number into the subconscious. And it not only into the mass subconscious, which not as much, but into my own subconscious. So I've done the subconscious and psychological warfare within myself, but now I'm starting to go outside of myself to take it to the next level, which is the breaking. So there's a number of ways. I mean, you can get creative with it. I can imagine throwing magnets, like, little magnets that you put on a refrigerator when you were a child that are numbers and letters. Well, I can even imagine the colors of the magnets. So right now I can imagine having a light green see-through 6, a sky blue 6, and a bright red 6. And I'm going to take those magnets, and I got this container of battery acid next to me, right? I'm going to shake those magnets in my hand, and I'm going to say, I am breaking today. I am breaking the power of the beast. And I could take those magnets and, in my mind, in my visualization, drop them one at a time, just to be kind of a dick, because I hate the beast so much. One at a time, or all at the same time, whatever. I'm going to do them one at a time and visualize the colors themselves even dissolving with the numbers, and seed the energy of breaking at a potent level, because what I'm describing to you is magic. Because we can do magic, we just don't understand that we can do magic. And I know for a fact we can do magic. And so that is a simple explanation of magic. And it doesn't require a ritual, because I'm not really into rituals, like my own personal thing. I like to be creative and use visualization instead of ritual, because it's just as potent, or more potent, if you're really adept and you put enough practice into doing it. So that's just kind of a simple, practical way you could do some breaking. And that's just an example. I could come up with 300 different ways to break. I could, there's this thing I do called cloud bursting, where you look at a cloud and you disappear the cloud. Now that, I try to do that a lot, especially when I'm driving down the road and my subconscious mind is already using the act of driving a little bit, because it kind of enhances it a little bit. But I try to dissolve clouds, so I'll pick a cloud way out and I'll just start to dissolve it with my mind. Well, I can use that same skill that I'm evolving and I'm harnessing and that I'm sharpening by using it over and over again for breaking. So I could just imagine the numbers 666 and imagine dissolving them, imagining them as clouds and dissolving them. Or I could imagine, this is another one that I do, I imagine the beast as the Matrix from the movie The Matrix, and I imagine I have an avatar that's outside of me that can go into that actual reality. So I imagine that reality as a real reality, and I imagine that beast as the beast, and I go in and I start finding places to just take flamethrowers and all sorts of things just to tear apart the mechanisms of the beast itself. So I imagine it as a big machine that can actually be dismantled physically. And then I let my avatar go in and physically dismantle it with all sorts of things. Missiles. I'll shoot missiles at it. And then I even imagine them trying to rebuild it, and me like laughing at them and just demolishing more and more and more before they can rebuild. And then, I might get exhausted from doing so much psychic work, and then I have to regenerate. But that's what this is all about. That's what this concept is about. So even if I'm wasting my time with it, which I don't believe I am, but I could be, because it doesn't require faith. That's the one thing that I think religions kind of get you with, is the whole idea of faith. But if you think of Thomas, all right, Jesus came up to Thomas, and I don't even believe in Jesus, but I do believe that a lot of the allegories and parables held within the Bible as a whole are very useful tools for illustrating all sorts of points, so I'll do so. So when Jesus was resurrected, and Thomas didn't believe that Jesus was resurrected and walking around until Thomas was allowed to put his fingers into the holes in Jesus' hands left by the nails that nailed him to the cross, right? Well, that's really how I believe we should operate in this 3D reality, and not believe and have faith in anything. So everything I'm saying to you right now, it's a belief, but it's flimsy. So even though I may be able to use and harness all this psychic power, I don't need to have faith in it. I can just do it. I can do it as a practice. And if something comes out of it, something comes out of it. If nothing comes out of it, nothing comes out of it. If something will come out of it regardless. I'll get a lot of anger and hatred out on something that justifies all that anger and hatred, and it will be pointed exactly at what it is that needs to be pointed at. So it does give me something no matter what, even if it's a pointless, fruitless practice. So I'll continue to do it. I'll continue to do my breaking, and I invite you to join me just in little moments here and there, not even daily. I don't do it daily. I do it whenever it occurs to me. Just whenever it occurs to you to take some time to do some breaking and some visualization of the beast narrative just totally dissolving back into the depths of hell from which it came, and no longer having the grip hold on all our human brothers and sisters out there that it has at this moment on this earth. And it's just totally neutering its potential, like cutting its balls off and leaving it this eunuch that no one can copulate with to produce any more destructive types of memes, because after it's shown to be the sham that it is, all the true potential of humanity will already be rising and will take over, and it will be that earth, that heaven on earth that Jesus says to pray for in the Lord's Prayer when he says, make it heaven. I'm just paraphrasing and probably misquoting, but you'll get the idea. Make it on earth as it is in heaven. Why would you pray that unless it was a possibility? Why would we be instructed to pray that prayer if that wasn't something that could be reality, right? Even in the book of, I believe it's the book of Revelation or some other prophecy, there's this time that's foretold where it's supposed to be like peace on earth and things, everything will get along, right? I don't even know if that needs to be the manifestation of what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the manifestation of us to live up to our actual potential, to get out of this paradigm and for us to understand right and wrong as right and wrong. As soon as we do that, who knows where it will go, but it will go to somewhere definitely better than where it is right now, or where it could be if we continue to go down the road of government as a solution for our problems. Government will never solve our problems. As a matter of fact, it will only entrench us deeper and deeper into our problems until we live in George Orwell's 1984 or something worse. And that's all it will ever give us. And that's why I put that Spooner quote on there, because it's really easy to see where it's taking us and where the whole journey of where it's brought us. You know, we may want to put glorification of our three-tiered system of government as the best thing ever to manifest, but it's not the best thing. It was just something that got us further down the road of this evolution. It was a little bit less evil than the thing that came before. And we may have to go to another iteration of something a little bit less evil. I sure hope not. I hope we could just get rid of it entirely. But let's at least work towards the little bit less evil, if that's what we have to work towards. But we all have to really understand that government, when Paine said government is a necessary evil, let's just erase the necessary part, because we don't know if that's true, first off. We don't know that's true. Government's been around for a long time, but that doesn't mean it has to stay. It's a construct to begin with. We came up with the idea of government as a way to solve problems. But it's only become a way to kick the can down the road. And if you can't see that, it's really apparent, because we're not going to get anything on earth better than America until we really get rid of government. And America is pretty freaking horrible. It's broken as hell. Like, that's the reason why my channel is now called Human Patriot. It's not American Patriot, it's Human Patriot. You know, I'm for everyone on this earth. This isn't just something that Americans need to realize. And I'm not talking about a one world government. I'm talking about a no world government. Like a government, of abolition, and a new type of abolitionist. You know, we had abolitionists when the slaves were en route to becoming free and just become government slaves instead. But I'm talking about government abolitionists, the new Underground Railroad. I'm talking about let's get this thing going. Let's start to do things. Let's start to have conversations. So this is my first video towards this. It's not the first time I've talked on these topics, but it's my first one declaring that I'm an anarchist and I am actively, fervently, spiritually working towards a solution to the problem of government. So I am to my destination now, and I think it timed out pretty well for when I want to end this video. So have a good one, everyone.